everybody. Welcome. Here we go. Happy Monday. It is that time again. Matt Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. And hello to all of our online listeners across the nation and around the globe. You can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for your live streaming options, social media links, contact info, show archives, etc., etc. Today is Monday, May 22, 2023. So nice to have you all with me. By the way, that track that we just played, that's called Artie Lang. That is from the band El Trevino, and they are our featured musical guest, Skyping in at the top of the hour number 2, numero dos. Looking forward to speaking with them. They are from, where are they from? Are they from Arizona? They're from somewhere in the Southwest, I believe. Derek Releford, who is a friend of the show, he's called into the show before a long time ago, and he's sent us music before, too. I think he and his brother are in the band together, and they're on Spotify. Great stuff. I really like this band a lot. So we did play a couple of their early songs, but now they've got a full album up, and that'll be coming up, like I said, in the second hour. Jenny is in the chat room. She says, I so like that song big time. Yeah, I do too. Really great song. And actually, I like everything. Everything they've done is really good. They have a song called In Blue that is just fantastic. But anyway, so that will be coming up later today. If you'd like to give us a call, 603-250-6007 is the number, 603-250-6007. The studio line is open. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. I'm on social media at Matt Connarton. You can email me, matt@mattconnerton.com. And, of course, you can interact and opine in the Facebook live chat. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007. Yes, Jenny confirms. Yes, El Trevino is a rock band from Phoenix, Arizona. That's right. That's right. Gets hot there. It gets hot. But it's a dry heat from what I hear. But I'll tell you, though, those summers, even with a dry heat, that can't be easy. Let's see. We'll go ahead and say hello to everybody in the Facebook live chat, and then we'll get into some stuff. Got a couple things we can talk about, but you know the big issue that is looming large as we sit on the precipice of economic catastrophe. Exciting, very exciting. But we'll go ahead and say hello to everybody in the Facebook live chat. Our friend Fredo joins us, or Alfredo Enrique Benavides. I do so love to say his full name. He says, yo, Fredo's been on the show a number of times, and he'll be back representing his band Dank Sinatra soon. I know Jenny has them booked and excited about that. Always nice to see Fredo in studio. Fredo and Friends. Actually, maybe he should start a band called Fredo and Friends. That'd be kind of fun. I like the sound of it. JFed joins us and says, good afternoon, everyone, as well as Melanie La Liberty, also hailing from the great state of Vermont, of course. The Green Mountain State, I believe it's called. They have the Green Mountains. New Hampshire has the White Mountains. It's like a gang thing. You know, we're gonna rumble over our mountains. They are. I don't know where I'm going with that. It doesn't matter. I'm going to wherever it was. I will abandon it immediately. Chris Rose joins us in the chat room from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Hello, Chris. I don't know what they call their mountains in Massachusetts. What do you, Chris? If you can respond, what do you call your mountains, or do Massachusetts mountains even have a name? That's my question to you, sir. Alex Whiteley joins us all the way from the UK. Alex, of course, host of the Shrewsbury Biscuit and other podcasting and broadcasting adventures. Alex is singing Hey Jude from the Beatles in the Facebook live chat. Also, Rhonda Favero from the great state of California is in the chat room. Hello, Rhonda. Nice to see you in there. Let me give the number one more time. Melanie says in the chat room, Massachusetts has Bad Driver Mountains. Is that really what they're called? My goodness. Bad Driver Mountains. I think, actually, to be completely honest with you, though, I'm not sure. I'll have to look this up to verify this. I think Melanie might be being a little bit funny. I don't think they're really called that. I don't know. I think she's making a joke about the drivers in Massachusetts. But let me just say this. I think there's bad drivers everywhere now. I remember a time where I used to take pride in the way that people drive in New Hampshire versus places like Massachusetts. But I feel like post-pandemic, I can't be the only one who's noticed this. I haven't heard anyone else make this observation, but I feel like post-pandemic, everyone is more aggressive. Well, just generally, but it really comes out in driving. I mean, I don't recall pre-pandemic so many people laying on the horn. If I have someone behind me sitting at an intersection and I fail to accelerate at the precise millisecond that the light changes. I feel like there's a lot more of that now. My favorite thing is if I'm slowing down to turn at an intersection and I have my directional on, I do it the right way, but the driver behind me decides to honk at me anyway because apparently my slowing down to make that turn safely is going to cause the driver behind me to arrive at their destination an entire 2-3 seconds later than they would have otherwise. And that is infuriating to them, obviously. Not to stereotype, but it's every time that happens, it does happen to be somebody in a big truck. So no offense if you're someone who drives one of those great big giant pickup trucks, but you might be the problem. Anyway, it's just an observation. It's never anybody in a Volkswagen Bug who is harassing me for simply making a turn. It's always somebody in a big truck, and then they honk at me, and then once they're past me because I've already turned, I can hear them. I hear them speeding up because they're now they're driving off in a horrible huff of anger because I had to turn and it delayed them a couple of seconds. And apparently that is, look, I get it in a sense, right? If you're driving a vehicle like that, you're already frustrated because, well, you're driving a big vehicle like that. So yeah, there might be something you're dealing with that causes you to need to drive such a large vehicle. But putting that aside, look, you must be spending an intolerable amount of money on gas and to drive a vehicle like that. So I can see where spending that much money to fill up your big truck, I can see where that would be a cause for tremendous angst and rage. And so you see me in my little fuel-efficient Nissan Versa, and you're feeling a little resentful. You know, you got to drive the big truck because that signals something to the world, that communicates something to the world that is very important for you, a very important signal for you to be sending out. I understand. But so you've got this angst, this resentment, and you just, and maybe, I don't know, maybe you can feel some sort of vibe coming from me that we might not line up politically. I don't know. I don't know how you would tell that from the way I drive or what well, like I said, I drive a pretty fuel efficient vehicle. I mean, it's not an EV, as the young people call it. It's not an electric vehicle. It's not that fuel efficient, but but it's not a big truck. I don't have something that exudes a certain machismo. So you might think, oh, probably a Biden voter, and you're and so you're just so angry with me. And you might have been behind me a couple of miles at that intersection where I didn't accelerate at the precise nanosecond that the light turned green. So by the time we get to the intersection where I have to turn, you're just boiling with rage. And, hey, I get it. Everyone has their cross to bear. And I'm sorry if my existence in traffic in front of you has somehow completely destroyed your day. I do feel badly about that. So such a terrible thing And I'm sorry if I caused you to spill your chewing tobacco all over yourself at any point as you're having a freak out that I saw happening. As I looked in the rear view mirror, I could see you just flailing your arms in a fit of rage as I was slowing down to make that right turn at that intersection, and you just couldn't handle it. So, you know, I feel badly about that. I do. I mean, you know, hopefully you didn't have to stomp on your brakes really hard or anything, and then your gun rack went flying off or something. That would be terrible. You should really make sure that that's secure. Anyway, there's a lot that can go wrong, and we should all be nicer to each other on the roads. But I do think that you know, people are a little more aggressive on the road since the pandemic. I think that by the way, that part, I mean, look, I'm being funny about it. I'm being snarky about a lot of this. I'm being a little bit flippant, which some listeners seem to like, or they like to hate, whatever it is. But I'm actually not kidding when I say I do think that drivers are generally more aggressive. Actually, I know that there's data and statistics that show that there was an increase in, well, obviously there was an increase in car accidents from when there was nobody on the road during the, the shutdowns, lockdowns, et cetera, when there was barely anyone on the road, obviously. But in terms of, when everything opened back up, there seemed to be, there's data that shows there were more car accidents nationally happening than there were pre-pandemic with the same levels of traffic. And I think, somebody might say, well, everybody just forgot how to drive. No one was driving. Everybody was stuck at home. Everybody forgot how to drive. But no, I think there's something deeper there. I think there was a lot of just pent up anger. And, I remember, it was interesting when there was nobody on the roads. I remember I had to go to Boston one night, something business related, and it was, I had to run down there and back, and it was like peak lockdown period, and I had to run to Boston, and it was so bizarre. It was like being in a zombie movie. It was so strange being in Boston at night, and there's nobody on the roads. That was weird. But anyway, I think, But I'm sorry, if you're someone listening to the show, if I've upset you out on the roadway with my lack of acceleration, my failure to risk getting a speeding ticket by going the 20 miles an hour over the speed limit that you would probably prefer if you were behind me, thinking I'm going to get bagged, not you. I assume that's your assumption. That was redundant. I'm sorry. I assume that was your assumption. I shouldn't. I pick on people for doing that, being redundant. I try never to be redundant or repetitious or repetitive or just say the same things over and over. So I apologize. I really try hard. I really endeavor. I make an effort not to do that. But Chris from Edgewise is in the chat room. Chris says, just think. There were so many predictions in the 50s and other times. We'd have flying cars by now. Society still not ready. Oh, yeah, I know. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we had flying cars? And, I'm flying around in a car and there's somebody in a much bigger car just doesn't even want me in the same sky as them and they're freaking out. Melanie says, zombie movie? Really? The undead were trying to consume your flesh? Yes. That did happen, Melanie. So what happened was, I'm in Boston at night. It's at the height of the shutdowns and there's nobody around. And I'm marveling at how nice it was, actually. It actually was kind of nice. Well, I'll tell you what, we got the pandemic, terrible time. And if you're a longtime listener or a regular listener, I take the COVID-19 very seriously. So, but we find those silver linings where we can, right? It was kind of nice to be able to maneuver around the city without worrying about being in a terrible car accident every second. Because Boston drivers are very aggressive. I was thinking the other day about my first time ever driving in Boston. I was 19. I was going to visit a friend at college. I'd been to Boston, of course, many times growing up, but it was the first time I'd ever been the one driving, and it was scary. But I learned to kind of put myself in a state of hyper alertness and just try to know what's happening on all sides of the car at once. But yes, I'm maneuvering around the city, and the roads are empty. And yes, I was at a red light. It's true, Melanie. And some people, at first I thought they had very bad limps. I thought they were just limping along, and then they started limping toward the car. And I was like, hey, get away from the car. There's a pandemic. I don't want whatever's making you limp like that. And yes, they tried to get into the car and make me one of them and consume my flesh. It was very frightening. That did happen, Melanie. But I was smart. I locked the doors. They couldn't get in the car. Ha ha! Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Dave Wally is in the Facebook live chat. Says, you serious, Clark? Is that a reference to National Lampoon's Vacation? I said Vancation. Vacation. Phonics, Matt. Very important. Melanie says, you're so dramatic. Hey, it happened. It happened. People act like encounters with zombies are just a big joke, but I'll tell you what, you have a brush with having your flesh eaten, I dare say you'll be singing a different tune. Oh, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Yes, thank you. Let's see. Miriam Banish also in the Facebook live chat. Hello, Miriam. JFed says, I can't believe that was you, Matt. I was out in my truck today, and I guess that was you that slowed me down. Thanks. Well, I apologize, JFed. I apologize, but, rules of the road, buddy. Rules of the road. No, but seriously, anytime that ever happens to me where somebody's honking at me and I've done absolutely nothing wrong, it is always somebody in a big truck. I'm just saying. That is always the case. Or an Amazon driver. I had we'll move on in a moment, I promise. But I remember posting pictures on Facebook. This was probably more than a year ago, but I had an Amazon driver almost plow into me because I'm coming up to this intersection, and this Amazon driver is turning, and he's turning onto the street that I'm on. And, with the Amazon trucks and, other companies have these too, like UPS and FedEx, where, you've got that wide open where there would be a door, you can lean right out as you're driving, apparently, because this guy did that. He goes to turn, and I had the right of way, and it's not like I intentionally put myself in his way, but he goes to turn. He cuts that corner much too close, almost hits me, and as he's driving, he's managing to kind of lean out the truck, and he's yelling at me for being in his way. And it's like, dude, I know. Listen, I know. And by the way, I'm not being snarky about this. This is a legitimate. I'm being sincere when I say this. I understand those guys are under and ladies are under a lot of pressure. They're under a lot of pressure because they have to. Amazon is notorious for the way they treat their drivers and the pressure that they put on them. It's not like other companies like FedEx and UPS. They have a really good reputation actually as far as how they treat their employees. Peter White from the morning show, he used to work for UPS. But Amazon, they have to pee in bottles. They can't even stop to use the bathroom apparently. So I understand. Again, it's probably similar to the angst that one feels if you're driving around in a big truck and you're spending all of your money on gas. But that guy was out of control. He was crazy. He swore at me and everything. And I just happened to be there at the intersection at a stop sign waiting to go. And he cuts that corner and he's flipping out at me. It's like, dude. But again, I do believe everybody's more aggressive on the road post-pandemic. I do believe it. Feels good to say that, though, post-pandemic. I guess now, right? The emergency order's ended, so the government says it's officially over. I guess. I mean, actually, the truth is about COVID-19, we're going to be stuck with it for the rest of our lives, but hopefully we can keep it at the level it's at now. If you'd like to give us a call, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. The studio line is open. Again, coming up at the top of the hour. In hour number 2, numero dos, we have El Trevino from Phoenix, Arizona, Skyping in. Really looking forward to that. I'm not sure if it's only Derek Releford from the band. He's a friend of the show. I'm not sure if it's just Derek or if there will be other band members on with them. I know that he does that band with his brother. And yeah, I played one of their songs at the top of the show. We'll play another one in a little bit. Really, really like that band. J-Fed says, you were way over the line, I bet. I was not, sir. I was not. How dare you? I was safely in my lane, and that Amazon driver was unduly rude, and I was very upset. I was, look, I'm not a big road rage guy. I don't have much, I'm a pretty easygoing guy anyway. I don't have much of a temper. I don't go around yelling people. But I'll tell you what, the way that Amazon driver treated me, I'll just say this. And again, I don't mean to use, I have to be careful what I say here. It's, we have FCC regulations and it's afternoon drive and young people could be listening. So forgive me if this is a little rough, but I will say this. I will say this, and I don't say this often, but that really upset me. I was significantly peeved. I was there. I'm sorry if I upset anyone with that. Let's see. We should, we'll wait on that. I don't know. The debt limit's like the big thing that's on my mind, but it's depressing. I don't know about any of you, but I do find the prospect of global economic Armageddon depressing. Might just be me. I'm not sure. The idea of destroying the global economy as we know it, it's a little worrisome to me. We should acknowledge, though, some other news. Senator Tim Scott of the great state of South Carolina, getting into the race today for the Republican nomination. So Tim Scott throwing his hat into the ring for vice president. Now, you might hear me say that and you say, whoa, Matt, no, you misspoke there. You said vice president. Yes, because that is the office that Tim Scott is running for, my friends. See, you have to remember, when you decide to run for the presidency, there are other reasons to run for the presidency other than actually wanting to be president. Not to suggest that Senator Tim Scott does not want to be president, but he knows he's not going to be, at least not this time. But he might be vice president. That's another reason to get in. Trump is going to be the nominee. I say that with no great joy or pleasure, but I do say it with an understanding that that's simply the objective truth. Now, that's why I refer to him as the presumptive nominee. You look at polling data, it's the same pattern as 2016. You got all these candidates, and, Trump is the only one with a big slice of the polls. Everybody else is in very low numbers. That's not any reflection. Nothing I'm saying should be considered any reflection negatively on Senator Scott at all. I actually think in a different year, he would be a phenomenal candidate. I really do. He's pretty conservative. I probably don't agree with him on very much. But I think he'd be an excellent candidate. But this time around, it's going to be Trump. But I do think he would be a very strong vice presidential candidate. So I think that's why he's running. Same with Nikki Haley. I think she'd like to be Trump's running mate. I would have said that I did say that about Ron DeSantis at one time, although the dynamics of that are very strange. Not sure Asa Hutchinson, former Arkansas governor, who's also in the race. I don't see him as Trump's VP. He's going to go with somebody young, I would assume, and for his VP, and it will be and not someone. Asa Hutchinson, again, very conservative, so I probably disagree with him on most things. I'm sure that I do. But he's been critical of Trump. Now, he doesn't go in hard on Trump. You know, he doesn't talk about, he doesn't really get into January 6th and all that much, but it's sort of in a broader sense. Hutchinson talks about how he wants to return to the Republican Party as more, I think he has more of a traditional, you know, he's not a young guy himself. I think he's 72. So I think he has kind of a traditional idea of thought that the Republican Party should return to more of the party of Reagan and, well, less the party of Trump. You know, he talks about he doesn't like the politics of grievance and looking backward and so forth. And his most of his criticism about Trump that I've seen has been he feels like if Trump is president, his term will be largely about punishing his enemies rather than governing the country. I think he's right. So he doesn't like the vindictiveness of Trump, but he's not going to be the Veep. Chris Christie probably announcing this week. Ron DeSantis definitely announcing this week. Chris Christie, of course, former governor of New York. I'm sorry, New Jersey, rather. And Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. Oh my God, there's so much to say about that guy. And every day there's more to say about that guy than there was to say the day before. That's why I haven't said that much. It's too much to keep up with that guy. Who else is throwing their hat in? Well, we had a candidate in studio, Steve Laffey, who is running. We don't talk about him much because while I like him personally, I enjoyed meeting him. I enjoyed talking with him, both on air, and we had a nice conversation off air. Actually, we had a conversation off air was more interesting than the one we had on air, which is actually true with probably a lot of guests. But again, not somebody I don't agree with him on probably most things, but but I enjoyed talking with him. He seems like a smart guy and certainly competent, but he has no chance whatsoever. Let's see. Is there anybody I'm forgetting who's already announced? There's always speculation. Chris Sununu, our governor here in New Hampshire, might announce. Anyway, whoever gets in, either they're getting in because they're trying to counter Trump in some way, or they want to be his pick for VP. But like I said, there's plenty of reasons to run for president that don't actually involve wanting to be president. You get to, it looks great on your bio online, right? If, former presidential candidate, if you want to increase your speaking fees in the future, very often. Oh, I know who I forgot. Mike Pence, no big deal. Just former president of the United States. Yeah, Mike Pence. And he's expected to announce soon too. I know DeSantis is definitely this week, and it sounds like Chris Christie is almost definitely this week. I think Pence probably. What was the last thing I heard about Pence? I think in June he's expected. And once we get past June, that'll probably be it. I don't think anybody else will be getting in past that. Usually by the beginning of summer, you've got everybody you're going to have. Pence has a book to sell. So that's another thing too. If you've got something to sell, a good way to sell it is a run for the presidency. It's a marketing campaign that other people who like you pay for. I mean, think about it. You raise a bunch of money from your donors to run for president, and you get to go around and promote your book. With the money that was donated to you. It's like the people most likely to read your book or books are the ones actually paying for you to market to them what they either have already read or might want to read or maybe want other people to read. It's a great, and by the way, I'm not knocking it. Hey, I don't knock the hustle. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. One of the most obvious examples of that I can think of in history is in 2012. It was 2012, right? Yeah, 2012 when Newt Gingrich ran for president. Literally, his campaign events were book signings. He and his wife Callista, they've both written books, many books. They've produced documentaries, and that's what their campaign events would be. They wouldn't be campaign rallies. They would be, book signings at national bookstore chains or even local bookstores. And they would sit there and they'd sign books for people and sign DVDs and of their documentaries and so forth. And that was it. I mean, that, couldn't be more obvious than that. And again, I'm not knocking it. Hey, that's cool. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm just saying there's many reasons to run for president. I'm quite sure that Senator Tim Scott, who announced today, realizes he's not going to be the nominee. But I didn't hear him say anything negative about Trump today. Which means he might want to see. Part of the thing is too with these candidates, they don't tend to go after Trump. I mean, Asa Hutchinson does a little bit. Chris Christie has, and he seems to be like, if he gets in, he's going to be positioning himself as really against Trump. We'll see if that holds, though. I'm skeptical that it will. Mike Pence does everything he can to avoid directly criticizing Trump, even though Trump, in my view, directly put Pence and his family in danger on January 6th. But I guess Pence is cool with that. What a guy, huh? So, the candidates that try to avoid directly criticizing Trump, there's actually two reasons to avoid directly criticizing Trump if you're in the field. One is you don't want to upset the base because the Republican Party, the way it is now, if you, some people can get away with it depending on their position. But generally, if you're in that field of candidates and you start criticizing Trump, the whole party is going to turn against you. And you have you have no chance of being the nominee to begin with, but you suddenly have even less of a chance. But the other thing is, too, if you want to be a prospective vice presidential pick, you don't want to directly criticize him because you want to, you can softly criticize him, but you don't want to go too hard because you don't want to make him angry with you so that when he does clinch the nomination, maybe you'll be on his list. So, Scott Robinson in the chat room says, never to fear, Matt. Oh, this is regarding the debt limit that I'm very, very worried about. Never to fear, Matt. The top 1% will be just fine with the global economic meltdown and everybody else will suffer, but they'll be okay. That is true. Yes. There will be, I'm not, by the way, I shouldn't be so negative. Part of it is dark humor. I am legitimately frightened. And I was in 2011. I remember going through this in 2011 when we really came right up to the edge. And I thought, wow, I can't believe our elected lawgivers and overlords, as I like to refer to them, are actually about to push the self-destruct button on America. I never thought I'd see the day. And then they didn't push the self-destruct button. But I think now it's even more possible. We've talked on the show a lot about the 14th Amendment and invoking that. There are some who say, Lawrence Tribe, who actually changed his opinion on it, the constitutional scholar, he once, and sometime advisor to Biden, and he was an advisor to Obama. And he, pretty respected guy. He once at one time said, you can't invoke the 14th Amendment. It's not a good option. And now he's changed his tune. He actually thinks it would be a good option, and it would be actually much more difficult than people realize for anyone to challenge it in court because you can't sue the executive branch for refusing to violate the Constitution. But of course, in order for that to work, you have to accept the premise that the 14th Amendment makes the debt limit itself, the statute that creates the debt limit, unconstitutional. And not everyone necessarily accepts that premise. And all it's going to take, this is what I think makes the 14th Amendment option so precarious. If you invoke the 14th Amendment, all it's going to take is some, depending on where it lands, who brings the suit, and what judge it gets in front of, all it's going to take is some federal circuit court judge to put an injunction on it so that saying that the Fed can't continue to make those payments. What happens if it goes to the Supreme Court? You know, it's a conservative leaning Supreme Court, but then again, they might look at this as, well, you know, we interpret the Constitution this way, and this, we think the debt limit's unconstitutional, and they might strike down the debt limit itself, and thereby the 14th Amendment goes forward. And that would actually be a positive outcome in the sense that if the 14th Amendment were to succeed and any challenges against it were to fail, then that would actually permanently solve the problem, right? There would be no debt limit. The debt limit would have been struck down by the Supreme Court. And not that those decisions can't be overturned. We all know they can, certainly. But that might be a positive outcome in the long term. But you're right, Scott. The 1% will be just fine. Will be just fine. Will be, W-I-L-L. I don't mean will be like W-E''LL. I am not part of the 1%. I don't even know what percent I'm in. Scott Robinson says I'm in the bottom 1%, I think. Scott Robinson says, what really kills me with laughter is that when you always are going to text that top 1%, all of a sudden the shipping problems and all these problems come. Okay, I don't know. I think Scott's using voice to text, and I'm lost. Okay, anyway, welcome. The point is, welcome Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina into the presidential race, and Trump has welcomed him as well. I did see that. He said, Trump commented that big step up. Oh, yeah, it's right here. Trump welcomes Tim Scott to 2024 GOP primary, saying, quote, a big step up from Ron DeSanctimonious. Speaking of Ron DeSanctimonious, although Tiny D is my favorite nickname that Trump came up with for him. I'm also a fan of Meatball Ron. Ron DeSanctimonious, that's a lot of syllables to spit out. But maybe we'll save the debt limit talk for after our musical guests in the second hour. But can I just wonder, I mean, does Disney only appeal to Democrats? Or does Ron DeSantis believe that Disney is only for Democrats and that Republicans all hate Disney? Is that the play here? Because actually, listen, and I'm being a little bit flippant, but if I had to guess, if Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida had it to do all over again, I really don't think he would have ever started this war with Disney. I think he would have bristled at their criticism of the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, but I don't think he would have ever tried to go to war with Disney because it's not going well. Disney just canceled that $1 billion project. Disney is the state's largest single-site employer in Florida. DeSantis is taking all kinds of fire from both the left and the right over being anti-business because he's so anti-Disney. And I think what has happened here, this is my belief, I think what has happened here is he thought that, you know, he was obviously DeSantis loves the whole culture war aspect of Republican politics. People wonder why. I know John Hopwood is confused by it. He criticizes me over it, and others too. But people wonder why I cling to Governor Chris Sununu here in New Hampshire, and I have a lot of criticisms of our Republican governor, but. As well. Believe me, I do. More so in the last year. But I do appreciate, the thing that I appreciate about Governor Sununu is he's no Governor Ron DeSantis. And to me, he represents kind of what the Republican Party used to be before they, I mean, there's always been, Republicans have always really embraced culture war issues, but I've never seen it quite this. I'm sure I have, and it's a matter of perspective, and it changes over time, but I don't remember ever seeing it, or at least I haven't perceived it quite this bad as it is right now. And Desunu, in my mind, I've created an amalgam of DeSantis and Desunu, which is odd because here I am talking about the differences between them. I mean, I'm sure in most policy matters, they're probably quite similar, actually. But Sununu doesn't seem to have any particular appetite for the culture war stuff. And he seems to represent a more pragmatic, practical, and not so angry and grievance-stricken. And, you know, DeSantis to me represents the part of the Republican Party that's just very, very angry, very mean, you know, hateful. And I don't get any of that from Sununu. And I always say, too, you know, Sununu kind of fits in with those, you know, other Republican governors like, I mean, there, you know, Charlie Baker, who, of course, is no longer there, but, you know, former governor of Massachusetts, or Larry Hogan of Maryland, you know, these blue state Republican governors. Not that we're a blue state. We're more of a purple state, I guess. But, you know, Massachusetts and, you know, other states where you have Republican governors in blue states who actually are able to appeal to swing voters by not seeming like these just crazy, psycho, hateful, like demons, you know, like Ron DeSantis. I mean, DeSantis is who is it? Is it the NAACP just put out a travel advisory saying that Black Americans should not travel to Florida because it's become such a hostile place? And DeSantis he's all in on all of it. He loves the culture war stuff, to the point that, again, I think he's operating under the assumption that Disney is so woke and so progressive that surely only Democrats want anything to do with Disney. Republicans probably all hate Disney just as much as he does, right? I mean, that's again, I think if he had it to do over again, he'd realize he botched this. He probably does realize he botched it, but he's gone so far with it, he can't stop now. So he's just going to continue his war with Disney. But, no, but, you know, Sununu to me represents, he's the kind of Republican I'm comfortable with. More of a moderate, not angry, mean, and hateful Republican, you know, just like a reasonable guy. I have plenty of disagreements with him, but I'm not frightened of him. You know what I mean? Just like I'm not frightened by Charlie Baker, or I'm not frightened by Larry Hogan. These seem like reasonable, moderate Republicans who aren't complete psychos. Like Ron DeSantis just seems like he's psychotic. Like he just fantasizes about the next insane law that he can pass against some minority group that he just wants to stomp on so badly. I mean, there's something wrong there. I mean, he makes Trump look like a loving, inclusive guy. But, yeah, DeSantis will be announcing this week. Isn't that nice? By the way, I have plenty of, if you're new to the show, and if you're getting the idea, if this is your first time tuning in and you're getting the idea, oh, this guy, what is he, just, he's like the anti-Sean Hannity. He just sits here and rips on Republicans. Oh, no. When we get to, after we do our segment with our guests, we will get into the depth limit. And I have a lot to say about Democrats, because with the debt limit, there's plenty of blame to go around. But I think the way that our president, And by the way, there's some things I do like about Joe Biden. There's some things I give him credit for. For example, I think the way that he's handled very carefully arming Ukraine against the Russians, which is a delicate balancing act because we don't want to get into a nuclear war, right? So it's bad enough we're going to have economic Armageddon. I'd rather not have a nuclear one, too. So I think the Biden administration has done a great job there. But on the debt limit, I think that I'm realizing more and more this guy needs to step aside and let somebody younger make a run for the Democratic nomination, because he has gotten himself in way over his head. And it's one of those things where I look at it and I realize, I've never served a single day of my life in any elected office whatsoever, never worked in politics. I've never been a political strategist, never worked for a campaign. Aside from running my mouth about politics, the only actual official political act I've ever done officially engaging with government is voting. And yet, I saw all of this coming. But our president, I guess, didn't see any of it coming. And now he is in completely over his head on this. And it's infuriating. It's disappointing. And it's inexcusable. There's no excuse for any of this. And so I have some mean things to say regarding that side of the aisle, but you'll have to stick around for that. Melanie just made a comment in the Facebook live chat that I cannot read on the air, but it was, but I very desperately wish I could read that on the air. And Melanie, I agree with you. All right. We're going to play I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself here. We got to take a break. We're going to take a break. We're going to show some love to our amazing sponsors, and then we're going to play another track from our musical guest today, El Trevino. And then when we come back from that, we should have at least one or more of those fine gentlemen on Skype with us, and really looking forward to talking with them. I love their music. But let's take a break. Show some love, and we'll be back. Hour number 2, Matt Connarton Unleashed, coming up. We are live. Don't go away. Come on down to the Hop Knot at 1000 Elm Street, Manchester's premier craft beer and gourmet pretzel bar. Tell us more, Trudy.
We make our dough fresh every day. We make a variety of styles of pretzels and serve craft beer, cocktails, and a few bottles of wine. We do the traditional pretzel, and we have multiple flavors for that. We also do stuffed pretzels, pretzel sandwiches, free dessert pretzels, and pretzel knots.
The Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan Plaza at 1000 Elm Street.
Bring your kitchen to life with Queen City Cabinetry, located at 87 Elm Street in the historic Sunbeam Mall in Manchester. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They can be reached at 603-222-2007 or on the web at queencitycabinetrynh.com. Come see the possibilities. Queen City Cabinetry, another proud sponsor of WMNH.
Clemento's Pizzeria, family friendly, awesome for a date night. Clemento's Pizzeria. For delivery, call 603-782-8450. Clemento's Pizzeria, the best pizza in town. 1875 South Willow Street in Manchester, New Hampshire. Best cocktails around. Come in as friends and leave as family.
This hour on WMNH is sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 5 Dartmouth Drive in Auburn. They serve all your business needs, including employee benefits planning, corporate design and business administration, investments and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. Their phone number is 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
I love that track. El Trevino. Derek, is that you?
This is me.
Awesome. Hey, sorry about a couple of minutes ago. I had to Skype crashed on me, and I had to reboot it real quick.
I get it, man. I used to use Skype every night for my radio show, but I switched it up about like right when COVID happened, we switched, and yeah, this is the first time I fired it up in a while. So yeah, I had some issues too, man.
Yeah, we use it quite a bit here at the station, and I know Peter on the morning show uses it, I think, pretty much every day. And it only once in a while does it have an issue, but when it happens, well, actually, at least I was able to restart it really quickly this time. Sometimes it completely freezes up when it does, when something does go wrong. It's more reliable than it used to be. But welcome to the show, and if you're just joining us, this is Matt Connarton Unleashed. We are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire, also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester. And that song we just heard, Alberta, coming back from the break from the band El Trevino, and Derek Releford from the band joins us on Skype. And Derek, when was the first time we played some of your music? I feel like it was a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. It was Walk Away, I think, was the first song that we played.
Yeah, I think so. Basically, I think I sent you that because I started playing music when COVID happened, because Trevino is actually a really old band, but we all started having kids and just got really jaded with the idea that realistically it was never going to go anywhere. So we were just wasting time. But when COVID happened, my brother ended up moving up to Arizona where I live, and we ended up stuck together for, as long as, the initial lockdown went. And we were like, let's write some songs. And yeah, one came up pretty quickly, and you were awesome and played it. And we decided to, that was me and my brother, and a drum machine actually is what you played last time I sent you. Now we actually got the whole band back together again, and Bad Knees and everything.
Yeah, I was going to say it definitely has a full band sound. Yeah, I didn't. Well, actually, I think I do remember you telling me now that that the other music that you had sent me back then was pretty sparse in terms of, like just you guys in a drum machine, but sounded really good, and the newer stuff is great too. You've got a full album up now on Spotify.
Yeah, we just put it out. It took us a year to record it. A lot of the songs some of them are new, some of them are decades old. So essentially the first time the band El Trevino put out an album was in 2012. And it was basically everything was written by me and my brother, including bass, everything except for the drums. And we were sort of known for working like that. And when COVID happened, there was no jamming anymore. There was no getting together with people. So I actually just started reaching out to friends and just saying hey, what kind of recording equipment do you have? Mm-hmm. And that entire album, the drums we recorded in a buddy's house in Kansas. It was not it was a professional studio considering the equipment that he had, but it was his basement essentially. And then I ended up shooting over to LA to record the vocals. But it was basically because a buddy of mine has a nice spot in a studio there, and I got a good deal. Oh. But essentially the entire record was recorded at home. And that was the real fun part about this, is to realize that, holy crap, we can make music from our living room. That's awesome, man. Yeah,
that's a subject of conversation quite a bit on the show when talking to musicians, is, because I ask everybody who comes on, what's your process? Because, I'm old enough to remember when, your options were, if you wanted to record, basically you go to a studio and you shell out that money and you record. And of course, now we live in a time where, you can go to a studio, you can record at home, you can do it all kinds of ways, or a combination of ways, and come out with something that that sounds like it was recorded in $1 million studio. And maybe part of it was, maybe the vocals were, or whatever, but or maybe the whole thing was done in your living room. You just never know. It's a remarkable time to be alive in that sense. The technology that we have now, just incredible. And so how long have you and your brother been working together on music now then?
Oh, so we, pretty exciting thing. June 30th, we're going to go back to our hometown. It's a little town called Elkhart, Kansas, about 1,500 population. Nobody knows or cares about this town. Over the last 4 years, I've been doing a podcast about my hometown. And for the first 2.5 years, it was very pleasant. It was all nice and stuff. And then about 6 months ago, I started releasing some of my small town in that area is sort of famous for unsolved murders and stuff.
Really?
So it's pretty interesting stuff. So I kind of started releasing stuff like that. And anyway, long story short, the podcast has for my hometown has really taken off. As I'm getting every single of those 1,500 people mad, if you can believe it or not.
Wow.
And so we're going to be playing a gig there on June 30th, a free show for everybody there at an amazing, like, for as small and unrelevant as this town is, they have an amazing theater. So we were like, that's cool. But
Wow.
we started in Elkhart, Kansas in I think probably 2000. So 23 years ago. And that was the first time I ever played music in front of people. So this is going to be a really cool homecoming type situation. But 23 years, man.
Wow, that's cool. So, but you said you've made a lot of people mad there. So what kind of the marketing of this is fascinating to me. So what kind of a reception are you expecting there? I mean, is it because not everyone there is necessarily going to be happy, it sounds like.
Honestly, it really boils down to the unsolved homicides from my town. You're a broadcaster, so most people I ask this question, they don't know who I'm talking about. But do you know who Paul Harvey is?
That name is very familiar. He's not he's not a comedian, is he?
No, don't quote me, but I think he's a Colorado area radio guy. He was older when I was in high school. He's been passed on for a while, but he was everybody would listen to him around my town, and he had a famous segment where he would read a headline and then he would tell you he would dissect it from the other side of it, and his tagline was, "And that's the rest of the story."
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, I do know who you're talking about now. I recognize that tagline. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So long story short, sometime in the late 80s, early 90s, Paul Harvey said on the radio, "If you want to get away with murder, do it in Elkhart, Kansas." And so I've heard that my whole life.
Wow.
I have a Facebook page dedicated to my podcast, and hundreds of people, they tell me the date they heard him say it, which none of them really add up. And so I started doing research, and there's this website. I don't know the guy's name, but he has, and don't quote me, but I believe the .com is, "No, Paul Harvey did not say to get away with murder in your small town." Apparently, this is one of those things that hundreds of towns across the country say that they swear Paul Harvey said this about their small town. So it's kind of weird. I don't know where it started.
Yeah.
But when I started kind of, asking questions and poking around about some of these unsolved homicides, it kind of hit me that, Paul Harvey probably never said, "If you want to get away with murder, do it in such and such town." But I've also been working in true crime on a missing persons live stream for 3 years. And I hate to say this publicly, but, you might as well say that. Honestly, it is so scary how many crimes go unsolved, how many people never get found, and who knows what the reason is, lack of resources, but it is, it really, you can really say that about almost any town, any small town. There's probably a lot of unsolved crimes that'll probably never get solved,
But how many, can you put a number on it? How many unsolved murders in Elkhart?
So I think on the record, I can come up with 5 or 6 on the books. When you get into family members reaching out to my website involving their loved ones and a suspicious death, you can get up into the 20s. One of the most notable ones is a girl was killed. She was missing in Elkhart in 1971, and same thing you would hear about any missing persons case in the 1970s. The parents were freaking out, and the police were saying she ran away, no big deal. Mm-hmm. And then 11 days later, they found her body, and just the amount of and again, I love Elkhart. That's the reason I did 2.5 years of the beautiful side of Elkhart, because
Yeah.
every town, even you're in Manchester. I bet that I've never been there, but just hearing you talk about it, I bet it's a gorgeous place. But I bet if we looked hard enough, we could find some scary stuff there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
every place has a seedy underbelly, but really, when I say backlash, there's a few people that are upset because of some of the audio I've released. But what's crazy is, like, if it was a percentage, 99% of the feedback I get is amazing, and attaboys, keep going. Stuff like this needs to be out in the public. It needs to be solved. And then I have like 1% of people saying like, hey, what you're doing is really crappy.
Oh, okay.
And what sucks is that 1% is like William the Refrigerator Perry, and that 99% is like the punter on the team. Like, he can just level that 99 in a second, man.
Yeah, yeah. What's part of what's fascinating about that to me is, so do you know the television series In the Heat of the Night?
Love that show. Yes.
Okay. So I liked the show. I love the original movie, and the series to me never lived up to the film. But I like the show. I love Carol O'Connor and whatnot. But something though that I always found contributed to my sense of suspension of disbelief while watching the show is I would always think there's no way a little place like this fictional town of Sparta, Mississippi could possibly have this much crime and these many murders and all of that. But then what you're telling us about Elkhart makes me think, well, no, actually it is possible, I guess. Maybe it's not that unrealistic. And maybe you're right that there's, plenty of small towns across America that do have a lot of crime and unsolved murders and all of it. And maybe my perception of In the Heat of the Night as being unrealistic, maybe it's not that, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's more common than I think.
Well, I mean, so the Elkhart stuff, like, really, that's just for a basic limited audience. I don't expect that anybody to look into that other than like my hometown people. But
yeah,
the show that I do for missing people and unsolved crimes, that's as Kansas as a whole. And I've been doing it for 3 years. And again, these are things I wish I didn't have to say publicly. But when I was like in high school, anytime before I started working in this avenue of like recording interviews with family members, stuff like that, anytime before that, the only thing I knew about, true crime and stuff like that was if you kill somebody or break the law, you were going to get caught, because I've seen Ice-T on TV catch every killer he's looking for. I've seen all the people on CS. There's a database. They're going to find your sweat drop. Some lady with glasses is going to doot, and you're going to be in prison. But I hate to say this live, but honestly, this is my new opinion. Getting away with murder is easier than you think.
Wow.
There is way too, like, just Google unsolved homicides in your state, and it'll blow your mind at how many families out there are waiting for any contact from law enforcement, and they don't get any updates. And again, it gets scary because it sounds like I'm painting a negative picture about law enforcement, and I'm really not, because
no.
At the end of the day, anybody that says that the police are bad, they're hiring. Like, you can go in there and clean it. Like, anybody can go in there and help out and get that job and stuff. So like, I really blame it on lack of resources. And, and a lot of these, small town murder stuff, like you think about it, like a lot of these cops, and this is, again, not a slight towards them.
Yeah.
They don't, like Suzanne Johnson getting kidnapped and murdered, never happened in Elkhart, Kansas before, and it didn't happen ever again. That was in 1971. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to have an officer that specializes in that type of case in Elkhart, Kansas. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah, it's funny too, as you say that. I'm thinking of In the Heat of the Night, and there you have, Detective Virgil Tibbs, and it's like, why would a fictional town like Sparta, Mississippi need a full-time detective, not just an officer, not just a police chief, but an actual detective whose job it is to solve these terrible crimes. But like you say, yeah, your typical small town isn't going to have the resources. You're right, to investigate something like a kidnapping or something like that, or a murder. And then, how do they justify, if it's something that's so rare, how do they justify making the investment in getting the resources and in hiring the personnel who specialize in that kind of thing when, it might not ever happen again. It might be something that happens in that particular town once a century, for all we know. So yeah, it's an interesting perspective, Derek. I'd never thought about it that way. I guess my assumption was always that, well, not always, but in recent years, that if you do something like that, like say you commit a murder, it's almost inevitable that you will get caught because of all the technology and what they can do with DNA evidence and so forth. That, I kind of have been operating under the assumption that hardly anyone really gets away with anything and that the law will catch up with you eventually. But maybe it sounds like I may have been wrong about that.
Well, again, like it's not in all cases, and again, I think it's some would argue it's a race thing, like which cases. I think it's more of a class thing. I think like if you're important, you'll get the resources. Like I do, I produce. I'm not a host. I produce a podcast with my company. This guy, we call him Norm because he looks like Norm from Cheers. His actual name is Rob Wilson. But one thing that he had pointed out, what were we just talking about? Sorry, I got lost in the your live 95.3 thing. What were you just saying? Because I had a good point.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying how my perception had been that if you commit a crime, you're going to get caught eventually. But now I'm in listening to you, it's changing my perspective on that I may have been wrong.
Yeah, it's just basically like if they have the resources. So one of the segments we do on that show is S word that should scare you. It's just a brief segment we do each week. And last week we did, if the amount of untested R word kits in this country should scare you. Mm-hmm. Like the amount of, there's kits sitting on a shelf with data of a known violent perpetrator that we have yet to muster up the funding, courage, or give a crap to test. That is scary.
That I did know, and that is very very frustrating. That is
and another
scary.
thing, I think the reason a lot of cases go unsolved is I think historically people don't really tell the police what they want to hear for many reasons. I think one of the biggest reasons is fear of retaliation. You don't want somebody to hurt you or your family. You don't know who you're messing with.
Right.
And then two, you don't want to be implicated in it. You don't want to have, so really what I've learned dealing with my own, these homicides in my own hometown is people are willing to talk if nobody is in the room listening. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what really I think I find saddening about it is like, I know about Suzanne Johnson because she's almost like a party favor. Like when everybody reaches that point of intoxication in small towns, around 2 a.m, somebody brings up her name and then all these theories start coming out. And the longer I did research, I ended up, getting in contact with her mother before she passed. I have an hour and a half unedited call on my website, and she lays it all out. And what I realize is that, everybody gossips and stuff. And so Suzanne Johnson lost her life and she died, but I could name you 10 people who lost their life that day also because of wrongful, people thinking they did it. I mean, it's a really ugly situation when something like that happens and goes unsolved. Nobody has a villain to put away to rest their feelings. So
right.
Everybody becomes leery of each other. It's a really gross thing, but again, I was sitting here for 2 years thinking, oh, my hometown's this horrible place, 6 unsolved murders. And then I was on the road and I was in an Albuquerque hotel and I Googled how many unsolved homicides in Albuquerque. And it was like, I think 600. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a lot for a city. Yeah. And that was only for the last 6 months.
Oh, wow. Oh my God. Really?
Yeah. There's a homicide problem in this country is what there is. It's my hometown's not evil. We have a problem with people killing people.
Yes. Wow. How did you get into that, by the way, doing the true crime podcasts and all of that?
Well, really, it all started with Suzanne Johnson and the other murders. And I have like, 30 hours of audio of just people talking to me. And I wasn't releasing anything to the public. And then I was doing my own like podcast, kind of swimming in that, no viewers or, I didn't really have a whole lot of following. And I interviewed this guy named Ricky Chabruggi, and he owns the Facebook page Kansas Missing and Unsolved, and he has like, I think, 80,000 followers, which is more than any of my other clients. And essentially he hired me to produce a live stream for his Facebook page, and I co-host it, but really I don't talk a whole lot. I just push the buttons and do all that stuff. But I kind of got into it like that, and I don't know, to me it's, and forgive me if I'm being long-winded and not talking about my music at all. But
no, this is interesting. We got time, and this is very interesting to me, Derek. I'm fascinated by this.
Okay, so, like this Suzanne Johnson thing. So, it's not lost on me that you have people out there that have made, great financial leaps and bounds while telling stories about true crime and stuff. And I'm not against that. I do believe that, you have to get the story out there. But to me, like, I kind of have a personal issue with making any of my true crime endeavors like my form of income, because I feel like if I mix that energy, that could be a bad thing. But the longer I do this, and I get on YouTube and I try to watch, there's a influx of true crime podcasts out there.
Sure.
And the only two that I'll name, and those are the only two in my opinion that are forgivable, is Last Podcast on the Left and My Favorite Murder. They're like comedians. One of them's a set of gentlemen, the other one is a set of women, and they joke about true crime and they have large audiences, and I'm okay with that. But I feel like the aftershock of that is every day when I'm scrolling through Facebook, it's a new sponsored ad about two people that are, hey, we're going to talk about true crime and we drink wine, and I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, is this
right?
Like, is this like we're getting off on gore and we're just talking about, these are when I do this show, any of these victims that I talk about, I talk to their families on the phone. I'm not about to go drink wine and film myself giggling about what to me, like, I feel like it's a little bit of an overreach. And part of it disgusts me, man. But at the same time, I do enjoy that these cases are getting out there, that people, do have another opportunity to say something if they're triggered by a YouTube video or a podcast or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. No, that's interesting. Now, does any of this kind of make it into your music? Or do you keep those things separate in your mind? Because I would think where obviously you're thinking about all of this, so you're so engaged with this and looking at these cases and discussing these cases with people, I would think some of that would influence your music, or maybe not.
I don't think so. I mean, we have one song called In Blue on the new record.
Yes.
And that song is about the Clutter murders. And the only reason that song is about the Clutter murders is because I'm from Elkhart, but whenever I got to like college age, I moved to a little bit of a bigger town called Garden City, Kansas. It's about an hour and a half from Elkhart. And that is 6 miles from Holcomb, Kansas, where the Clutter murders happened.
Okay.
And I was really into Truman Capote at the time. That's a song that's pretty old, actually. We just now got around to recording it. But I was really into Truman Capote at the time. And I watched the movie that Philip Seymour Hoffman did portraying him, God rest his soul. And to me, it just made me realize, like, the Clutter thing was just like a horrible miscommunication where these two guys thought they were going to get this huge payout robbing this old farmer. It was bad intel. The guy only had like $50. They killed this poor family, and then they went through a crazy trial, and then they get killed. And like, to me, like, I don't know. It's just, it was kind of realized that, like, kind of what we're talking about here, like, as much as we say we hate bad things happening, what are we going to listen to on the way to work, Matt, if nobody's out there killing people?
Right. Well, there's plenty of bad things to listen to. That's for sure. Plenty of bad
it's kind of like these people became stars.
Yeah.
It's like, they, like, people know they a movie became bad, and it's like, there's just really bad situation where people got killed because of really bad people, and it's, I feel like we do sensationalize stuff like that a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, there's quite a bit of that. Yeah. So how in the band now? By the way, so just clarify something for me. Is it El Trevino or Trevino? And the reason I ask is I thought it was El Trevino, but I noticed on Spotify it's just Trevino.
Yeah, so we're not good at what we do. We used to go by Trevino, but actually we have like a website with our first album on it, and the address is El Trevino.
Okay.
And so we've kind of gone by both. People call us Trevino, but the reason we went ahead with like changing everything to El Trevino is because up until like 2 weeks ago, our Spotify, the 4 of the top 5 songs were not us. We were like, that's not good.
Dude, that happens so much.
Yeah.
Oh, that happens a lot. Yeah.
And if there's any aspiring songwriters out there, please, before you name your band, search Spotify and see if your cool band name's not being used already.
Yes. Absolutely. Where does the name come from, by the way? Why is it called that?
So people know me as Derek Releford. I was actually born Derek Trevino.
Oh.
I'm half Mexican. I'm one of those people of color that I have to, if I'm around other people, like other family members, I have to like pull out paperwork to prove I'm Hispanic. But like my dad is Mexican, and so I was born Derek Trevino, and kind of dark, but my grandma had 15 kids, and like 11 of them just, really, they didn't have a father, like 11 of them really went off on a rough path. And without getting too far into it, when I was in the 7th grade, an uncle of mine had landed himself on TV, great thing for the family, except it was America's Most Wanted, which was kind of a bad vibe.
Oh.
And, it's really my stepdad, David Releford, like, I'll say this, me and the guy did not get along for the first 18 years of my life.
Yeah.
He's one of my best friends. I went and hung out with him all day yesterday. He's one of my best friends now.
Oh, good.
And looking back, he was trying to, make sure I was, going to be a good person. But, one thing is, as much as I didn't understand, we couldn't communicate, I always understood that he worked his butt off every day. He took care of 2 kids that weren't his. Whenever he introduced us or talked about his family at work, we weren't stepkids, we were his kids, So in the 7th grade, I kind of took him up on his offer to adopt me, and I became Derek Releford. And then I used to lie when I told this story. I changed the person telling the story to my grandma because she's a sweet lady. But in reality, one of my uncles, probably for crappy reasons, because he was a musician, he was intoxicated one night, and I was like 14, and he said, if you ever do anything musically, change your name back to Trevino. And with as great of a man as David Releford is, I could never do that, so we decided just to call the band Trevino.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Well, that's cool. I'm glad there's a story behind it, because sometimes I'll ask somebody, hey, where's the name come from? And they're like, oh, we just thought it sounded cool.
We saw a tombstone in Texas. We were like, that's good.
Well, I don't know. That's not bad, actually, for a metal band. Or, and so what's the long-term trajectory? I mean, do you guys have plans to tour, or you've got the show in Elkhart you were talking about, but are you guys actively playing out, or what's happening currently?
So like that's kind of like one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to people, because I hate where my muse is. I'm gonna pre-apologize from where I got my life-changing muse. But Matt, you probably haven't, but have you ever seen the George Strait movie Pure Country?
I've always been aware of it, and I remember when I worked in a music store, I would always see it in the soundtrack section. And so I can actually clearly imagine the cover with George. The one picture of George Strait that I've ever seen where he actually has facial hair on the cover of the soundtrack to Pure Country. But no, I've never actually watched the film.
Okay, well, it's a good film for a bad film. You know what I mean?
I've always heard it's actually quite good.
What I kind of got from it, and I had watched it recently, like last year or two. It's just essentially about this country star that realizes that there's so much smoke and bangs and fireworks on stage, and so he decides to do a test, and he doesn't sing an entire verse, and his band, the fans, nobody notices. So he kind of goes through this like, thing where he's like, what are we doing here? Like, is this a circus? And it gets so to the bad to he leaves, and they end up throwing like another guy up there and playing a track, and the fans are so sold on all the smoke and mirrors that they don't even realize that the guy they paid all this money, he's not even on stage. And it's just a really long-winded story about basically his character realizes like, you know what, man, like I started playing music because I thought it was fun, and I thought maybe it would get me some chicks. Like, that's why I started playing music. And I feel like a lot of artists, once you get mixed into this whole like, music industry, which really doesn't exist like it used to. I mean, there is a music industry, but like once you like, I don't know, I feel like it perverts your art when you try to make it your source of income. Because I think once if you're trying to earn money, you should try to earn as much money as possible. And in order to earn more money, you kind of have to sacrifice what you're doing. And I just think it's a breeding ground for just one, bad music, and two, just not having fun anymore. Like, and I have friends that did really well. They were on MTV, stuff like that. I have friends that didn't do as well, but had more fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, us recording this music and our whole trajectory is, first of all, none of us live in the same state except for me and my brother. Me and him live in Phoenix. We're all scattered. That's why we home record. And two, right now we play 3 gigs a year, which involves we all fly to a city, we rent equipment, and we play shows. But really, as far as like, we're just having fun, man. Like that was so fun to record an album. And then one thing I did want to talk about was the mixing and mastering. I don't think people realize how scary of a step that is to take all your work and hand it to a stranger.
Oh yeah.
We found this, and I'm going to call him a kid. I think he's like 21. We found this kid on Fiverr after doing tons of digging, and we hired him. He banged it. He did a great job. And then like 3 days after he sent us the finals, he had entered some huge like a YouTuber's page that had millions of followers. He entered a blind contest and won it, and he beat the producers of Abbey Road.
Wow.
So, and the YouTuber's like, whoever this guy is, his price is just quadrupled. And I'm just going to say it because he doesn't charge it anymore.
Yeah.
The lowest guy we found was $200 a song to mix and master. This kid from the UK did it for $50.
Wow.
We send him more money. We're like, no, you don't understand how this works. But yeah, really lucky on Fiverr. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow. Very cool. It all sounds fantastic. And no, that's great. So Derek, where should people go online to keep up with the music and everything that you're doing?
Probably the best place is just on probably Facebook. So it's like, that's the thing. We're the worst at any of that kind of stuff. I do have a website, but it's not done, so I don't want to say that. But
I gotcha.
Like Facebook, but mainly we're going to start releasing more music into the world via all the streaming sites and stuff. What we're working on next is some cover songs. Just getting back into the why did we start doing this, because it's fun. And one of the fun things is just playing other people's music and doing your spin on it.
By the way, there's I don't think the mics really pick it up, so you probably couldn't hear it, but there was a bunch of sirens just now that went down past Elm Street, and I so wish that had happened while we were talking about your true crime stuff. That would have been perfect. But it happens once a show. Like every day it happens at some point during my show. There's a bunch of sirens. But it can be hard to, social media and everything. It can be hard to keep up with all of that. But Jenny has been sharing links too in the Facebook live chat, and I see that you put your link tree in there. So that's great. And do you have any plans for, you mentioned covers. What about original music? I mean, are you and your brother, are you always writing and coming up with ideas, or?
Kind of. Like this latest album was different because like the first album, I think I wrote all the songs and then my brother wrote one. And then on this new album, my brother wrote 2, and then our guitar player from Denver, he wrote 2, and then the other. But it's really I don't know. It's kind of like the game Telephone, like with home recording and stuff, like how we operate. If it's a song that I quote unquote wrote, like I'll go to my brother's home studio and I'll lay down a guitar track for like my idea, and then I leave, and then as soon as my car starts, he deletes what I did and then records it better.
Right.
And then he basically messes with it for 3 weeks. And yeah, just between like, it's kind of fun. When you're in a Dropbox band, when you wake up and you start your day to go to work and listen to music, typically you usually have like 4 or 5 additions to the idea you started a week ago to like listen into, and so it's really, to me, it's the only way I could even do. Like if we had to do this hanging out together in a room, hard pass.
Right,
I don't want
right.
to write songs with these guys.
No, I understand. Well, it's great stuff, Derek. So we're gonna as soon as we'll conclude our conversation in a moment. You've been very generous with your time. I appreciate it, and we're gonna play another track. But also, do you want to plug the podcasts again? Because we talked about that stuff a lot, and I'm sure there's people who want to check out what you're doing there.
Yeah, if you want to have a good time, just go to like any podcast platform and just look for the Elkhart tapes. There's, I believe, like 50 some episodes. The first 45 are really, and it's so cool. Like it's this tiny little patch of earth in the middle of nowhere. And I was able to find 45 amazing stories, just like heartache, triumph, great stories of people that just at one point lived in this town. And then the last 5 episodes is a grab bag of people snitching on each other. So
yeah.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Absolutely. What's it called again?
The Elkhart tape. So it's ELKHART.
Okay, good. I'm glad you spelled it, because people might not know to put that H in there. So very cool. All right. Well, Derek, listen, I'm going to let you pick. We'll let you go in a moment, and then I'm going to go to another one of your songs. But what would you like us to play?
My favorite song is one that I didn't write at all.
Yeah.
It's a song called Tell Me. And I told people I wasn't going to tell them what my lyrics were about, because a buddy of mine asked me about one of my songs. He's like, "Is your song about this?" And then I told him what it was really about, and he was just like, "That sucks." So
yeah.
I've decided, but this song, it's not my song, so I feel at liberty. But it's just basically, it's a song about, and it's something you can probably maybe appreciate. I don't know you super well, but just kind of like that conflict with, growing up and the people who care about you, where your heart is drawing you towards art, but your loved ones are like, "That's nice, but you're going to die broke."
Yeah.
It's just that kind of battle of inner turmoil of, picking the safe route or being yourself and, eating a lot of ramen and doing what you want to do, so.
Yeah.
And the guy that wrote it's a doctor, so you can decide what he did.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I think definitely a relatable concept for a lot of people. So great. Yeah. We'll play that. Awesome. All right. Derek Releford, and should I be saying Trevino or El Trevino for the band name?
Either way, I think Spotify, I think they'll only show you Trevino. All the other ones, it says El Trevino.
Yes.
Just look for the offensive photo of the album.
There you go. There you go. All right, Derek, again, thank you so much for joining us today. I loved it. It went in a direction I wasn't expecting, but I'm glad that it did. That was fascinating. But thank you so much, my friend, and we will have to do this again soon. I really enjoyed this. So thank you so much.
I love you, buddy. Take it easy.
All right, Derek. Thank you. Take care. All right. Very good. So we're going to close with this track. Oh, there we go. We're going to close with this track. Tell Me. We're going to close the segment. We're not quite done the show, but then we'll come back and we'll finish up after this. But this is Tell Me from Trevino, or El Trevino, here on Matt Connarton Unleashed. Check this out. I love these guys. I love their sound. This is good stuff. Oh my God, I love it. That is Tell Me. The band is, they're Trevino on Spotify, El Trevino elsewhere. But thank you again to our friend Derek Releford for joining us today. And Jenny and I have known Derek for a while, online, of course. But that's the first time I've ever had an extended conversation with him on the show. And I really enjoyed that. We not only talked about the music, but some of his other things as well that just really interesting. I'm going to have to check out that podcast about Elkhart. But very good, very good. So thank you again. And by the way, we'll play one more track from that band at the end of the show in just a couple of minutes. And we're already almost at the end. But if you'd like to get in with a very quick call to put a tag on the show, you can. 603-250-6007 is the studio line, 603-250-6007. Tomorrow on the show in the second hour, we have a musical guest in studio. Hip-hop artist Cody Pope will be joining us, and I think he's going to have at least one other artist with him as well. But that will be tomorrow in the second hour, and I've interviewed Cody Pope, I think a couple times or maybe a few times over the years, but on another show that I do. But that'll be the first time on this show that we've had him in studio with us, and that'll be really cool. I'm looking forward to that tomorrow. So we've got a busy week ahead of us here on the program. And we'll say hello to everybody in the Facebook live chat quickly. Well, everybody we didn't already say hello to. We saw some new folks enter the studio. New Force of the Spark. Now, I've seen New Affirm of the Spark in the Facebook live chat. This is New Force of the Spark, whom I strongly suspect is from Greensboro, North Carolina. They say, hello, hashtag Matt. We said we are now called of ourselves New Force of the Spark. Oh, I get it. We are now called. So it used to be New Affirm of the Spark, and they are now called New Force of the Spark, which makes me wonder, was that a suggestion made by their manager and producer, Texas Mike? If you're not aware, our friend Texas Mike, who appears on the show occasionally, he also appears on the morning show and has been on Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. He got roped in, he got invited to be the manager and producer of, apparently they are now called New Force of the Spark in Greensboro, North Carolina. New Force says, cool song, we said. We say, how's it going? Also, our friend Rocky Huber joins us in the Facebook live chat and says, how's everyone doing? Hello, Rocky. New Force of the Spark says, we say hi, hashtag Rocky H. We said, how are you doing? From New Force of the Spark. We will be performing for the Center City Park downtown Greensboro, North Carolina, is karaoke on June 4th, 2023, as we could at 4 to 7 p.m. Very nice. Well, congratulations on that. Did Texas Mike book you that gig? Rocky says, I say to you from us and me, the spark of the force, that's new. We say hi. See, Rocky, it sounds like he's perhaps been to Greensboro. He knows the lingo. Oh, boy. Anyway, it goes on and on. My dad is in the Facebook live chat. Hello, Martin Connarton. Let's see. New Force says, we say Archer Flight. They watching the morning show with Peter White on Facebook Live, we said. And we have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this? Oh, all right. Well, that was a stimulating dialogue. All right, we are... did I miss anybody in the chat? No. All right, we're about out of time. I do want to close the show with one more track from Trevino. Great song. This is Artie Lang. This is one that Derek had sent to us a while ago, and I think we had played on the show. Oh, there's a new name in the chat room. Hello to Davey Schumard or Schumard. So we got to go. So we're going to play one more song and to close out. If you miss any part of today's show, it will be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org and at my website, mattconnarton.com. Don't forget tomorrow on the show, in the second hour, we have Cody Pope for our musical guest. Really looking forward to that. Very talented hip-hop artist. And we've had some great discussions in the past. Oh, Davey is the drummer for El Trevino. Well, hello, sir. I'm a big fan of your band. There you go. I'm about to play another one of your songs. All right. So lots of great stuff coming up. Thank you all again for joining me today on the program. And thank you, of course, to Derek Releford for joining us for a great discussion as well. And I'm going to leave you with this. This is a song called Artie Lang from El Trevino. To close out today's Matt Connarton Unleashed right here on WMNH 95.3 FM.